Scott Golden, Golden Opportunities Coaching here. Welcome those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who are seasoned veterans of what we do around here. Almost 150 subscribers, which is really cool. Trying to get to 1,000 so we can give some money to the folks who are affected by the COVID virus. So please like, share, comment below. This is a audio that I do a lot with. I am a believer in the spiritual slash psychic phenomenon. However, I think most of it is, or a good bit of it, is embellished for various reasons. In any event, what is intuition? So, intuition is what we're going to be talking about today, signs that you may have a higher intuition than most. So, I am a believer in the concept that we actually are born with six senses, not five. The sixth sense being an inner knowing or intuition. Now, some say that comes from a higher consciousness, some say that comes from a deity, a god, goddess, some say that comes from the universe. Regardless of where it comes from, it exists as a reminder or an opportunity to kind of see and read between the lines. I think we all have it. I believe that we're all born with it. Unfortunately, we live in a textile society. See, smell, taste, touch, feel. We do not live in a society that glorifies en masse the knowledge or the inner knowledge that comes with intuition. And so, unfortunately, a lot of people either don't think they have it, or they turn it down, or they turn it off, or they ignore it, or whatever. But a person with higher intuition than most is a person who can do some of the following. So it'd be interesting to see if you are a highly intuitive person. Comment below if you've ever been in these situations. We're going to talk about, let's see, six or seven of these. And not all of them apply, but I'd say at least half of them are going to apply to a highly intuitive person. So this is, you can pick up on people's emotions really well. Now, this can be a learned behavior in so much that you can learn body cueing, you can learn body language, you can learn vocal cueing and tone of voice and all these other things. However, when you're using intuition versus outside cues, you're going to be able to pick that stuff up in about 15 to 30 seconds. You're going to be able to have a person not even need to speak or be able to say one sentence, and you pick up things and read between the lines. So this is really useful when you're meeting new people, because sometimes it can help open doors to conversations to have and not to have. If you're a highly intuitive person and somebody says something like, I am frustrated with people being so religious, chances are hey, let's not talk about religion, but also let's not talk about a lot of rigid thought related things. Or if someone says, hey, I'm really into nature, then that means they're probably into maybe alternative health, or they're into conservation. In other words, you can use one or two words to link and create a personality profile, as well as the emotional state of the person that's in front of you. And that is a character development or character evaluation too. That is to say, you can tell whether a person's motives are clear or muddy or selfish or altruistic or self-motivated, usually within 5 minutes of meeting them. A highly intuitive person is going to read between the lines. They're going to care more about what a person isn't saying than what they're actually saying. Or, more accurately, what could they mean by what they're saying and what motive might they have. You're thinking about the big picture instead of the small picture. A person that generally uses only, or primarily only uses their five senses, is looking at what's in front of them rather than the bigger picture of the motivation and the dividing factor in a person's actions. So linking thoughts. This is where intuitive people are really creative, because many of them are artists, and they're musicians, and they're philosophers, and they're people that do a lot of, just to link it together, deep thinking type stuff, because they're looking at how everything links together. They're looking for universal cause and effect. They're looking for a deeper meaning. They're looking for the why more than the what or the who. And so these are individuals who you might say, hey, I need to make more money. And then An intuitive person is going to say, I feel like you're really good with people. Have you ever thought about babysitting? And a person might look at them and go, huh? Well, no, but I do babysit my niece. All of a sudden, the person's made a link with a strength of another person based on a need they have or something they've said or the way they've said something. Linking thoughts usually are problem solving thoughts based upon what you can get from a person's verbal cueing, verbal stylings, and the like. Um, the next thing to consider is that there's always a search for the why, and I touched on this a little bit, but a highly intuitive person really doesn't care what you're saying, they care why you're saying it. Because they realize that words have two meanings. One, the meaning that's in front of them with context, but also the motivating factor of why a person is saying something. What are they trying to get? What are they trying to get across? What need are they trying to get met? These are things that matter more to a person who is highly intuitive because they could better serve a person if they understand motivating factor. And so as a coach, I use so many different modalities from my intuition to my training that's been under mentorship for over 2 decades to research. In other words, the more discipline a person has when using things, the easier it is to serve them. But intuition's part of that. If I'm talking to a person that's screaming at me, I know I can raise my voice in order to not compete with them, but to be like them. But if I'm talking to a person who they're quiet, they're only speaking at, say, 50 words a minute instead of 100, which is average pace, they're pausing between words, I can use those cues to determine for them, hey, their deeper meaning is they just need security because they're behaving in a way that makes me believe they're insecure or something of that nature. Dreams, the ability to interpret dreams, remember dreams, and sometimes even lucid dream or control dreams is something that a highly intuitive or sensitive person can do. They understand that dreams are a bridge between the conscious and unconscious or subconscious mind. They also understand that dreams are there to teach us things if we're willing to take the journey, and they will do a lot of introspection about dreamings and what the value is. And so a person's going to follow, a highly intuitive person, they're going to follow their inner voice rather than data. Now that doesn't mean they don't do research. But if the data is against what their inner voice is telling them, chances are they're going to follow their inner voice, and chances are, side by side, a person that follows their intuition is going to be right about 85 to 95% of the time, where a person who follows data is going to be right about 70 to 75% of the time, because intuition comes from knowledge of experience and wisdom, whereas data only comes from research. And so experiential living is much better than fact-based living because it doesn't factor. Fact-based living does not factor emotion into things. Now there are circumstances at which being more driven under the fact-based model, medical decisions, some legal decisions, things like how to stay safe. These should be fact related, but something like whether to go on a date with somebody, whether you walk by something in the store and it feels like you need to pick it up and you don't know why, and then a week later, a month later, you realize, hey, this person needs this thing and I happen to have it. Intuition about what someone's feeling or thinking, intuition about whether a business investment or personal investment is worthwhile. Sometimes something as simple as, hey, I feel like you've been sick lately. I think I really feel like you need to go get checked out. I've had clients who have said, I felt like there was something more going on with my mom, my dad, my child, and sometimes prevented, or in one case, I had one lady I worked with about half a dozen years ago who was able to catch her daughter's cancer because she had a feeling that there was something wrong going on in her daughter's body. Her daughter was, I don't know, 8 or 10 at the time. And sure enough, within 4 weeks, this young girl was who at the time was had just graduated into stage 2 of cancer, but was not showing any consistent symptoms yet because it was too early. was receiving treatment and was cancer free in under about 4 months. Whereas if they had waited for the physical signs, it would have been at least a year's worth of treatment, and her mortality would have been much lower. So that's what intuition is. It's a knowing that comes from a place outside of oneself. There's a lot of debate in it. A lot of people believe in it, but don't know how to articulate that. Some people think it's all BS. But much like many of the non-physical sciences or the emotional sciences, not enough research has been done to say it's 100% real or 100% fake. I think more information is needed to really identify what intuition is. I think in the next 20, 30 years, we're going to see intuition become more and more important in society as people become more deceptive just for survival. So I do see a trend towards people becoming more aware and alert. And I think that's valuable. In any event, if you are a person who has high intuition or is developing their intuition, I do offer services that allow people to do that under a coaching paradigm. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to reach out. You can send a message here on YouTube, or you can send a message on Twitter at PO Perception. Either way, glad to be of service to you today. I remind you, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.